Where the devil are we? I'm Matt, and we've got some more. The proof is out there. Are strange entities watching us? Is shadow people real? Is a hat man real? Don't know. Are ghosts real? UFOs real? The Bigfoot, you know, the Mothman. All of it. The Loch Ness Monster. Don't think the Loch Ness Monster's real. Who knows? But let's go and find out.
It's February 8th, 1993 in Long Island, New York. Pharmacist Gary Sudbrink has come all the way from Texas to visit his parents. A call comes through on the house landline. Gary answers it, and what he hears frightens him.
Is Gary Sudbrink there?
Is Gary Sudbrink there? Nobody knew who I was, Gary, till I put on the mask. Why would you shoot a man before you throw him out of a plane? Sorry.
Huh? You're being impersonated by the other voice.
This is the voice of the Mr. Rons. I just think it's somebody pissing around, to be honest. I'd probably be like, who are you? I know you are.
A raspy, mechanical voice speaks to Gary. The conversation is odd, with the person on the other end repeatedly asking,
So how long are you going to be back from Texas?
I was just pretty much shocked, you know. About 7 seconds into the phone call, I decided to hit the record button on the answering machine because it was extremely unusual.
So how long are you going to be back from Texas?
How long are you going to be back from Texas? Would you like to play a game? Gary?
How long am I going to be back from Texas? That question doesn't make any sense.
By the other voice.
Gary would receive 2 more calls that evening and one the following day from the same mysterious voice.
I mean, if I got something like that, at first you'd be like, which one of your mates is being a dickhead, right? First things first. You could tell this is a few years ago, you know, like answering machines and with a play and a record button, and phones with cords. Which is a shame, really, because I think we've lost something there.
Each time it delivered a different, unsettling message.
Keep an eye on the near arrival. The full moon may come. Beware government interference.
So the aliens, right? Little green men playing, like, it's almost like knock a door running, like falling up, pretending to be humans. Like, can you imagine aliens pissing themselves going, got a human on the phone here. Like, beware, look at Orion, the moon, Gary, the moon.
Gary says these couldn't have been wrong numbers or random prank calls because the voice knew personal information about him, like the fact he was visiting from Texas.
And his name.
He developed a theory that seems far out.
New personal information, like he been to Texas. The first thing it said was, is Gary Starbuck there? I can't remember his last name.
I had no idea who was calling me or what entity was calling, but it wasn't until a lot of time passed that I was thinking maybe Men in Black type thing.
Fucking hell. I'll tell you what, the UFO phenomenon really has dried up if the Men in Black are making prank phone calls now.
MJ Banias is skeptical, but provides some background on the MIB.
UFO lore says that the Men in Black are this shadowy group of individuals who direct people to not discuss any strange encounters that they've had. They order them to stay quiet, and they threaten them with horrible acts of violence or death if they do start talking about the things that they've seen.
General McCasland. Just going to leave it there.
So how long are you going to be back from Texas?
That's do you mean the DIY store Texas or the state of Texas? Don't know. Why, do you want to meet up for a coffee or something?
More on Gary's connection to UFOs in a bit, but it's worth pointing out.
So Gary has got a connection to UFOs. Okay, this gets interesting.
That the Men in Black legend originated in 1947 when a man named Harold Dahl allegedly saw a UFO on Maury Island, Washington. Dahl claimed a man in a black suit visited him days later and warned him not to discuss the sighting.
Beware
Now, Gary told us he has never seen a UFO, but his dad had years before, and the sighting had become family legend. Could that explain why the call came to his parents' landline?
No.
In the months following the mysterious...
No, because unless he's out there, like, writing a book going, my dad saw a UFO once, then why would the Men in Black start going, right, we're going to tell this guy, don't mention UFOs, and he's like, what are you on about, UFOs? I've not seen a UFO. Your dad's seen a UFO, though. Don't talk about... Dad, yeah, of course he did. You know what? I completely forgot about that. Yeah, and then you start talking about UFOs. So, doesn't make much sense, does it?
His phone calls, Gary sent his recordings to news channels and even a private investigator. But no one could identify what or who was calling. So can this case finally be cracked? Our experts answer the call. First, we asked military aviation expert Tim McMillan whether Gary could really have been contacted by the Men in Black.
Why are you asking an aviation expert about a phone call?
Gary Sudbrink there.
So these Men in Black are like Gary is Gary Sudbrink there? Is Gary Sudbrink? I'm butchering that. It's Sudbrink. It's Sudbrink. Gary Sudbrink there.
Nothing that I hear in the calls is suggestive of the Men in Black. My first impression is that the caller on the other line is actually using a pre-recorded message in its replies, because there doesn't seem to be the back and forth flow you would expect from any kind of conversation.
How long am I going to be back from Texas? That question doesn't make any sense.
By the other voice.
Okay.
You're being impersonated by the other voice. You're being impersonated by the other voice.
We took Gary's recordings to forensic audio analyst
Weird.
Dr. Rob Maher, and it turns out McMillan's instinct was spot on.
The interesting thing about the call is several of the utterances are repeated 4 or 5 times during that conversation, and they're not just repeated word for word, they're identical.
So how long are you going to be back from Texas? So how long are you going to be back from Texas?
So somebody sampled a voice and recorded it and played it back to him. That is even weirder, to be honest.
Men in Black remarks are pre-recorded and just played back several times. I took the alleged Men in Black voice and played it back at a faster rate, which restored the voice quality to what I would consider a normal speaking voice, normal pace of utterance, and normal pitch.
So how long are you going to be back from Texas?
So how long are you going to be back from Texas?
Sound familiar?
The voice quality is very reminiscent of Gary's voice.
So how long are you going to be back from Texas?
How long am I going to be back from Texas? That question doesn't make any sense.
We can't get 100% accuracy out of that single recording, but my subjective determination is that Gary recorded.
No, I've heard that again. It's the bit where he goes, how long am I going to be back from Texas? That doesn't make any sense. I'm not sure I would say that. I would go, what do you mean? Like, did he at any point say, who is this?
Recorded this and played the voice back at a slower rate to make the deceptive Men in Black voice.
So how long are you going to be back from Texas?
Unfortunately, voice comparison is not an exact science. Without more evidence, we can only say this is a possible hoax. We asked Gary for comment, and he insisted his tapes are authentic. But what do your ears tell you? Who do you believe?
Well, I mean, is it Gary's voice? Probably. But it did say you are being impersonated by the other voice. You are being impersonated by the other voice. If you're a third person and you're using somebody else's voice, you would call it the other voice, even though you're not saying it. So that sentence makes sense now. You are being impersonated by the other voice. So it's like that person saying the words, but using Gary's own words back to him. So it kind of makes sense. thinking about it. But when it says hoax, obviously I think it's a hoax. I don't think it's fucking Men in Black. Like, it's probably someone who knew Gary piss assing around. Or he's done it himself, but I suppose you never know, do you?
It's December
But it's a massive leap to say Men in Black.
2008 in Savannah, and tourist Jesse Greathouse is visiting from Akron, Ohio with his family. He's playing with the family's new camcorder during their trip to historic Colonial Park Cemetery when he captures something that causes a social media uproar. As the footage rolls, we see Jesse zooming in and out around various gravestones and mausoleums, when off in the distance, a translucent child in white robes seems to appear.
That just looks like a kid running around.
The apparition runs behind tombstones, jumps into a tree, and then drops back down to the ground before suddenly disappearing.
Do you know what that looked like to me? Behind the tree, the kid, there was a low-hanging branch, the kid pulled it, and that's what you saw, and then the kid came from out behind the tree.
It all happens pretty quickly, so let's take a closer look. Ignore the person walking by and
Let's move this down.
the bright white figure in the background moving quickly from right to left. You can barely catch him getting into the tree, but you can clearly see him jumping down before vanishing near someone pushing a stroller.
No, that's him picking up a branch.
Just filming, and this kid.
Does that not look like he picks up a branch off the floor and he's holding it up, and then he then he drops the branch, and then it looks like something's dropped out the tree, but he's actually dropped the branch and he's just moving.
Kind of like catches my eye. Just
If the expert says that, then it's like,
almost bright.
give me a job,
When we went to go watch it, it really
right?
just
Then he stops behind the tree.
do have something really significant here. To this,
Then he picks up a branch.
like still like
Then he drops it.
like I can't believe I'm watching this.
Author Heidi Hollis, who writes about the supernatural, suggests this ghostly figure may have plenty of company.
Yeah, it does. Call his family, and you see him walking along.
700 people were victims of yellow fever, and they're buried in a mass grave there. So I think it's a possibility that the child that we're witnessing in this video was indeed a victim of yellow fever.
According
Oh god, how did they make this leap? An absolute leap. One, you can't tell it's a ghost. Two, there's like other kids running around with a family with a pram, and it could just be one of the kids in the family. You can quite clearly see the kid does not jump in the fucking trees. He picks up a branch and then drops said branch.
to a historical marker, nearly 700 victims of the 1820 yellow fever epidemic were buried in a mass grave. But records allegedly show that exactly 666 people are buried in the cemetery.
Just think, you know, all these mass graves and you think, what is your great-great-granddad's or grandma's name? Do you know? Anybody watching this now, do you know what your great-grandma or great-granddad's name is? I couldn't tell you. It just goes to show that no matter how important you think life is now and everything that you do in life is important right now, in 100 years' time, people just would not know who you are unless you've done something big. But I suppose the most important thing in life right now is that you live it well and your family. But it always hits home that in 100 years' time, your name might just disappear into the annals of history.
And the numbers were fudged so that nobody would associate the epidemic with the work of the devil. During the Civil War, the cemetery also served as a camp for Union soldiers who laid siege to the city.
When you think of the Civil War, so much death, so much destruction.
I've always wanted to do like a recreation of a big battle. But then I look at it and I think, is it proper full on where people get a little bit carried away, or is it actually you got shot really early on and you just got to lie there and pretend to be dead for like an hour? Don't know.
That energy lingers in the air. Paranormal activity might indeed congregate in an area when something negative.
Kid running.
It is a
Run in.
possibility the child that we're
Gets behind the tree.
is
Picks up a branch.
wandering here on this earth.
Drops it, and then his family catches up with him and he just walks off with them.
Chills down my spine. Established in
Let me know what you think. Me personally, I think that's exactly what happened. It's just a kid running around, picks up a branch behind the tree, drops it, and then it looks like he disappears, but he doesn't. It's just the fact that his family's there and he sort of is walking behind them.
1750, Colonial Park was the first public cemetery in Savannah. It also served for a time as the city's dueling grounds. During Sherman's march to the sea, it is believed Union soldiers desecrated and disturbed the grave sites. So this cemetery surely has some stories to tell. But what's the real story of this video? Let's summon the presence of our experts.
Yes, come on, let's get them in. Don't go straight to the is this a fucking ghost analysis. Occam's razor, the simplest explanation tends to be the correct one.
Forensic video analyst Michael Primo takes a look.
Come on, Mr. Primo.
Typically, when evidence is manipulated intentionally, there are other indicators that we would detect through software tools.
And I guarantee he's going to say it doesn't look like it's been tampered in this case.
Because the average consumer doesn't know how to conceal that information. No evidence of additional tools were detected or changes to the evidence drastic enough to warrant intent to deceive.
Physicist Dr. Matthew Shadagas examines the possibility that the image is a product of something called video ghosting.
Because this was on an analog tape, this is not the best image quality. What if something had been previously recorded, video of a child running around, that then got superimposed on a later video of the cemetery? That might explain the strange coloration of the childlike figure as simply some sort of echo or memory, not in the ghostly sense, but in the...
I didn't even pick up, to be honest, that the kid looks weird from a colour perspective. It just looked like a kid running through the cemetery.
Sense of a previous video on the same tape.
Shadagas also points out there are many other natural occurrences caught on camera that are often mistaken for ghosts.
Many things have been confused for ghosts in the past, things like lens flares or a speck of dust. Now in this case, we have a very human-shaped figure, and that's why I don't think that lens flare...
I mean, you've got a completely black figure there with just a white torso, which is equally strange when you look at the video, but nobody's saying that that guy's a ghost.
Or just a dusty atmosphere are the correct explanations this time.
So then could this actually be the figure of a ghost caught on tape?
That's obviously a branch. If anyone says otherwise, you're wrong.
Do not see any evidence here that this child is anything paranormal or out of the ordinary. I don't see any reactions from any of the bystanders as if something strange is
because they're not bystanders, that's his family.
Happening. I think what we're seeing here is an ordinary, non-dead human child that's playing in a cemetery.
Okay, we agree with Shadagas that at first glance, this looks like it could be just an ordinary child, dressed in light-colored clothing. It's this moment right here that makes us have our doubts. Watch as the figure seems to shape-shift, then leaps into a nearby tree.
No, it doesn't. Doesn't fucking shape-shift. I'm going mental. Anybody who watches that on first viewing can turn around and go, it's a branch that's on the floor. The kid picks it up and then drops it.
And then falls to the ground. And no one seems to notice. Very strange.
No. It really isn't.
We cannot confirm the authenticity of what that camera saw on that day. So the verdict for this case is inconclusive. We need additional information to be able to opine or identify specifically as it is.
I've just lost a recycled, rechargeable battery. I flicked it across my desk in anger that nobody has just spotted the fact that it's a fucking branch off the floor.
The verdict? This is possibly a living child. Shadagas' observation that the bystanders didn't react is telling, yet that unnatural movement at the end leaves us wondering. Meanwhile, Jesse remains adamant that this is a genuine ghost. So we leave it up to you to decide.
Yeah. I'm putting it as a possible branch with a possible human child picking up a possible branch and possible human child dropping the possible branch. That's obviously what it was. I mean, right, okay, I'm not going to be one of them people go, I'm 100% correct. You know, everybody else is an idiot. Let me know what you think, right? I honestly think that was just a kid running through the cemetery ahead of his family, standing behind a tree. He sees a branch on the floor, picks it up, and then drops it. Probably because his parents said, you know, put it down. And then they catch up with him, and then that's it. That's all you see in the clip. That's it. Nothing else. Yeah. The fact that they don't say, I have no idea what that is. Are they doing that on purpose? Do they want people to go a bit nuts and go, what are you talking about? It's obviously a branch. Or they generally think, you know what, I don't know what that is. So, if we don't know what it is, then can't have an opinion on it. Anyway, that's all for this one. Thankfully, before I lose my nut. Let me know what you think, though. What do you think that was? Honestly, what do you think it was? Anyway, you take care of yourself. I will see you on the next one. You take care. Cheers.